base. This is kind of how Pluto used to be a planet. It is now no longer a planet. Alright, so this Banshee is taking down a few more of our Yellow Terran players' siege tanks. He is now up to 2-2 on those Marines. He is researching 3-3. When he gets to 3-3, I really don't see any way that Metal Guitarist is going to be able to compete with that when his Marines are only now at 2-1. Actually, he is caught up in upgrades a little bit, but he is not researching anything beyond that. So his opponent does still have a pretty good upgrade advantage over him, but what is he going to do with the destruction of that third base and all of that economy? His main base is mined out of minerals. His natural expansion will be short to follow. He needs his third base economy. He has dropping a lot of mules at it, but his economy is now pretty battered. His opponent has almost double the SCVs that he does, and he is on 4 bases. But where is One Word Poem's army? It is all spread out. He doesn't have any siege tanks over here. He will lose a lot of these Marines to Metal Guitarist. But will Metal Guitarist lose any of his siege tanks? He is now. Those units are just getting there in time. If he can take down Metal Guitarist's siege tanks, he will be okay. But he still does have 1 siege tank left and 2 more in the back, so he needs to actually put up a defensive position over here, but he's not actually sieging his siege tanks just yet. Okay, now those siege tanks are in position. They are in siege mode. That will allow him to repel the remainder of this attack. And what's Metal Guitarist's plan from here? He is continuing to utilize those Banshees pretty well, but that Banshee was taken down. And with the destruction of those siege tanks, Metal Guitarist was forced to call GG. Okay, now that was a pretty typical Terran versus Terran on this map. This map really caters a lot to Marine tank play, so that was really what both players were going for. And even though this seemed really back and forth and really kind of sloppily handled by both players, that's just TvT when you play Marine tank, man. It's very difficult to actually make it's really very difficult to make yourself look good when you're going for that unit composition, because you're always going to be losing a lot of Marines. You're always going to have Marines that are taking down your siege tanks when your Marine buffer units die. The one thing that I really think that One Word Poem needed was a Raven. He needed a Raven with that army and like maybe 2 Vikings. That would completely have shut down the Banshees that he was going for. Maybe even thrown in a Thor. The Thor would have done a great job at shutting down the Banshees also, because those Banshees allowed Metal Guitarist to stay in there for longer than he should have, because they were allowed him to whittle down his opponent's siege tank count and keep himself even despite the fact that he was on a less economy. From Metal Guitarist's standpoint, the way that he opened was that he opened with a very heavy Banshee siege tank opening. It was not very economical, and his opponent had an economy lead on him for virtually the entirety of that game. One Word Poem could have used some more production. I mean, he was really just sitting on these, what is this now, 5 barracks? Yeah, 5 barracks, 3 with reactor, 1 starport, and 1 factory for the entirety of that game. He just now threw down a factory and a starport. Oh, and he did have this. He did have this second factory over here. Okay, so he was actually able to ramp up his production a little bit later on. But you know, when you have this much gas in the bank, it's really indicative of the fact that you weren't really spending your money nearly as well as you could have been. But it didn't really matter, because he was able to take down his opponent. Metal Guitarist is a pretty good Terran player, but One Word Poem was actually able to show him up in this game. So I'm glad I got to cast that. Thanks for submitting that to me, guys.